Hi everyone, my name is Emily Crewthirds. Today I'll be doing my firm analysis presentation on the Hershey Company. First, I'm going to cover a little bit of the history. According to the History of Goodness, in 1894, Milton S. Hershey, the founder of the Hershey Company, had established the Lancaster Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And the Lancaster Company was primarily used to produce caramel products. Therefore, Milton S. Hershey had established the Hershey Company to incorporate chocolate coating to its caramel products. The first debut product that the Hershey Company had created was the Hershey's Milk Chocolate Bar, and then shortly thereafter, their Hershey Kisses. According to Statista, in 2023, the Hershey Company dominates 38.2% to 43.8% of the total chocolate confectionery market share. I also did some research on the side, and the Hershey Company is also ranked top 5 of the most popular chocolate companies in the world. The Hershey Company's mission statement is to provide top quality chocolate products with affordability to consumers everywhere. My first external challenge is the scarcity of cocoa. And according to the Economic Times in 2024, all chocolate companies are facing a shortage of cocoa. This impact on the companies can make it to where their products are more expensive because they'll be having to cover the expense of paying more for their cocoa supply. There's many root causes to this. Some of the root causes are, first, let me just break it down. There's cacao trees that produce cocoa beans, and the cacao trees actually have very strenuous climate and soil requirements. So that can kind of take time if a farmer, experiences deforestation and has to find new land. It could take a minute because there's so many requirements that will be needed to produce cacao trees. So that's one of the things. Another thing is pests. According to an article I had read, over 5% of cocoa beans are already infested by pests or destroyed by pests. Another issue is natural disasters. Actually, Ghana and the Ivory Coast are two of our primary chocolate suppliers, and they both experienced flooding in December of 2023. And now they're experiencing extreme heat waves. And due to the extreme heat waves, many of our chocolate companies, being that they get their supply internationally, are being affected by this. And to give you an example of how they could be affected by this, consider the pricing of the companies having to be increased, and many consumers may find like a generic chocolate bar that's more affordable than, let's say, Hershey's chocolate bar, and they might just stick with that generic chocolate bar, and then there goes a consumer that the Hershey Company did have. A resolution to this that I've considered for the Hershey Company is greenhouse production. Greenhouse production can save the Hershey Company from having to face the consequences of cocoa shortages internationally. Basically, I had analyzed their financial strength in accordance to Statista facts from 2013 to 2022, and as of 2022, they have their revenue is $4.5 billion. So therefore, a greenhouse cocoa production center would cost probably millions of dollars. They would need a high-tech greenhouse for their products. So, I mean, it's evident that the Hershey Company could afford this. As a resolution for the farmers' livelihoods that could be affected by the Hershey Company establishing a greenhouse instead of sticking with traditional farming practices, the Hershey Company could establish educational programs for the local farmers that are affected by this. But I think that a lot of the farmers that will be affected are international. So for them, I think that the Hershey Company should establish long-term contracts with them. So when those farmers that are international are in their harvesting season, we could still purchase stuff from them. We can still use them, but primarily we will be depending on our greenhouse. External challenge number 2 is cadmium and lead found in Hershey's dark chocolate. So, according to a Milberg lawsuit, 265% of MADL lead was discovered in the Hershey's dark chocolate bars. What this means to us, issue-wise, is we can face cardiovascular health issues, cancer, lead poisoning, cadmium toxicity, issues like that. And with the level and the percentage of how much lead was discovered in Hershey's can pose like a high risk for all of us. So the root cause to this is that heavy metals are simply in our environment. They exist. I read that cadmium is actually prior to the harvesting. So it's already in the trees and in the soil. The lead is actually post-harvest, and basically it's just how the techniques of how our farmers are grinding the cocoa beans and like drying the cocoa beans and stuff like that gets the lead inside of it. The effects on the company is their brand recognition. And what I mean by that is when people discover that there's heavy metals in their dark chocolate bars, they're not going to want to purchase any of the Hershey chocolate bars because of fear that all the Hershey bars will have that cadmium and lead in it. A resolution for this is better farming practices, maybe implementing policies that prevent from using a certain percentage of fertilizers and pesticides, because fertilizers and pesticides contribute to the amount of heavy metals that are present in our food that we consume today. My internal challenge number 1 is the operational efficiency. So operational efficiency affects the Hershey Company because the more efficient they are that way, the better they will be able to supply and meet consumer demand. This impact can affect, for example, employee turnover. If they realize that the production process is not as efficient, then they may not want to work for the Hershey Company and contribute so much effort when there's more ways easier ways to produce a product. With this being said, a resolution is enterprise resource planning and supply and processing optimization. Basically, this can help to identify where the issues are with processing cocoa or chocolate, and it can make operations move more smoothly. My internal challenge number 2 is the employee treatment. I'm going to focus a little bit on the Ivory Coast because some of you may know this already, but there were child labor issues in the Ivory Coast connected to the Hershey Company, not just the Hershey Company, but the chocolate products. And the impact on this caused a lot of like protesting, just like public outroar toward the Hershey Company, and a lot of consumers had decided they will not purchase from the Hershey Company unless they can implement better ethical practices. In response to this, I think that the Hershey Company should continue to contribute to the community better and be transparent with consumers on their ethical practices and the policies that they will implement to make the ethical, the labor rights better for many of the employees. And yeah, so thank you guys, and that was my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.